Thank you very much for the warm welcome, Tor and Heka. And thank you so much to the planners, to David and Vinciane, who I first met 4 years ago in London, where they had their very first conference. And all the planners, this has been a beautiful experience, starting with Michael in the morning and moving on to Jeremy, and the incredible presentation from Sela, which reminds us that we're people and our connection to the future is our children. So I really would like to share a little bit of the story of Roots of Empathy with you today, why we started it and how it goes and how it connects to tomorrow. I guess it would be good to maybe clarify a little bit about what I mean by empathy, because I think we all have our own version, which is grand. When I speak about empathy, I mean the ability to understand how other people feel, and sorry about that, and the ability to feel with them. And that to me is the secret sauce of our humanity. The ability to feel with the other, to find your humanity in the other, is what will give us the motivation to realize that the people on the other side of the mountain and across the ocean are the one. And that if we can help our children realize that they're not alone in this world, and that the people who are strangers are just people they don't know yet, but what we share in the world through our feelings, we have an ability to have a connective tissue, that our feelings are what distinguish us from everything else in the world and what make us one. So Roots of Empathy, as you heard, was a response to the suffering in the world through violence. And having worked with little children who were physically and sexually abused and women who lived in domestic violence, I just wanted to draw the curtain on that suffering. So my learnings from their suffering really was that there are no monsters in this world. There are people who are in pain and they inflict pain on others. And how can we break that cycle? My aha moment was that empathy was really the key, and that empathy was innately predisposed in every human being, but it was through the attachment relationship, the first loving relationships a child has, that it blooms or fades. And what can we do in society to hold that family in the palm of your hand so that they are nurtured, so that they can love that baby into life, so that they can make that baby feel worthy of love and feel trust. And if that sort of a secure attachment happens, we're off to a very good start. So Roots of Empathy is about taking the attachment relationship to school. It's about bringing one parent and one baby to be part of a classroom over a whole school year. There is an instructor who is trained. There's a 4-day training. There's a curriculum. There's professional development and mentoring for the instructor. It's a gift to the classroom teacher. The idea is we want the teacher to be able to see the brilliance of the children, to be able to see their emotional vulnerability and their resilience, their strength, their courage. Teachers never get an opportunity to observe their children. So this is a chance for the teacher to become part of the program. It's a year-long program. The little baby and parent come to visit 9 times over the school year so that the children can track what's happening with this little baby, not just in terms of the milestones. The children are so very excited to watch the first big milestone, which is the baby flipping over. And when that happens, you can hear the cheers throughout the entire school. And then, of course, when the baby manages to sit up unaided, or when the baby crawls, or when the baby takes a first standing, they usually don't walk, by the time the end of the school year, because they start when they're only 2 to 4 months old, and the program goes on for 9 months of the school year. So the idea is that we measure what we treasure in Roots of Empathy. So we measure how the children are doing. We've got 16 years of research, and the whole idea that we evaluate the children's experience. As soon as the children can write, they're invited to give us feedback, written anonymous feedback on their experience, so that we have the white jacket scientific peer-reviewed published research, which is great, but we also have it from the children, from the classroom teacher, and from the Roots of Empathy parent, so that you can put them together and see, does this make sense? Now, I just wanted to share this bad news slide with you because there is good news. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and I think our little children are lighting the footpath to our future if we just give them the chance to overcome an insecure attachment if they started out, if they landed unlucky in life. We want to give them a chance to have a new track in their brains of what love looks like. There's no one right way to love or to parent, but you know when you're in the presence of love. So by allowing the children to have guided observation of this brilliant, most beautiful relationship between a baby and a parent, and it's not always the mommy. Sometimes it's the dad. If we really get a home run, you've got the dad and the mom. Or we have had 2 dads and we've had 2 moms, whoever is there for the baby. Whoever the real family is who we celebrate. So the children in this guided observation have the very most incredible focused attention, which is the number one thing that we look for in school in terms of executive function skills. We live in a very distracted society. So if little children can focus in on how is our little baby feeling today, and how do we know how the baby is feeling? How do we read the baby's body cues? How do we know from the baby's expression and vocalization? Are the baby's hands open or are the fists clenched? Is the baby's body rigid or floppy? What are the ways we can tell how this little baby is feeling? So we want to overcome some of the insecure attachments that children have because they block their path to a happy life. And they create a pathway to aggression and violence and many unhappy things. We're particularly focusing in Roots of Empathy this past year on the Syrian refugee children. In Canada, we've accepted many, many thousands of children. And what we're doing is targeting the Roots of Empathy program in each province. We're in every province of Canada, to the classrooms where those children are because they have endured incredible toxic stress and trauma. And the Roots of Empathy work is trauma-informed. It's very much aware that how children feel determines anything that they're going to learn and determines whether or not they will be able to manage their behavior and pretty much what is going to happen in their lives. So it's not something that's very obvious to the classroom teacher, and we don't usually give teachers support in understanding aberrant behavior, so that it's quite typical for a child who's had trauma to either be very aggressive or to be completely tuned out. And most people have the reaction, well, what's wrong with you? I'm trying to teach you and help you. What's wrong with you? Instead of saying, what's happened to you? Because what's happened to children is who they are. And in any classroom, you have huge emotion going on. And unless you bring down the emotion level, there won't be learning for children. So this idea of emotional shrapnel in the classroom is very real. So teachers need help in understanding how to introduce the children to understanding how they feel. And the trick is understanding how the baby feels and learning the language of their emotions. The words for, feeling frustrated. And I'm going to show you a clip in a second about little baby May. And baby May is struggling to reach a goal of finding a toy. She can't reach the toy because she's not able to crawl yet. But the children are incredibly focused on helping baby May to reach the toy, and they feel her frustration. And it's very interesting. You can see the instructor is asking questions, and I call this little clip, it's less than 2 minutes, but there are 18 questions asked. And in Roots of Empathy, we don't tell the children anything. We only ask them questions, and most of the questions, they're all experiential questions. There's not really an answer. And in life, it's about getting to the right question. The answers are not so important, but if we can help little children reflect and come to the right questions and come to understand themselves, and the theory of change is when they find the humanity in the little baby, they will then be coached to find the humanity in themselves. And once you can find your own humanity, you can bridge to finding the humanity in the other. And when we understand that another person can be hurt by us, it's a break against cruelty. It's not a guarantee, but it's a break. And if we could do anything in this world to stop people from hurting one another, to reduce the suffering, we're well ahead. So let's see if we can get this video to work here for you. That's the instructor, and there's the mommy.
What does that sound like? What's the sound? I want this toy. So she's saying she wants this toy, but it will sound, she's saying. Let's put this out further. Let's see what happens. Okay, now is this, do you think she'll be able to get this? You like to watch her? What is she going to do? Yes. See if she keeps trying. Does anybody remember when she was learning to roll over? What? She kept trying. Should we try to make a little closer?
When little baby May took the second spill on her chin, she turned around to her mother in perfect, secure attachment mode, saying, "Am I all right? Can I go back to play, or should I be crying?" And Mommy patted her chin and sent her back to work. So it's that reassurance that the children all appreciated. So you didn't see it, but after that, the instructor said to the children, "What happened when baby May turned around to her mommy?" And the little boy who asked 2 questions, who kept referring to baby May as a boy, he was new to Canada, fearless, found his voice, knew nobody would laugh at him, because the children don't laugh at one another because they know it hurts. So he said bravely, he was asking his mother if it was okay. because mothers tell you if you're okay. So the wisdom of children, if we just listen. And in Roots of Empathy, we do a lot of listening. In the training, we explain to the instructors that you have to check your authoritarian genes at the door. Because this is a program where we listen to the children and try to pull from them their wisdom. And try to help them become observers, scientific observers of humankind. And that we use intrinsic motivation. And that's an interesting concept because it means you give up your adult authority. You don't use praise as a tool of manipulation. As a former teacher, I can tell you, it's a great tool. You know, oh, you're sitting up so nicely. So that everybody is a little bit cross with the person who's sitting up so nicely and a little bit anxious that you as the authority figure might not say to everybody, oh, you're sitting up nicely. So you're holding all the power in your approval. And in Roots of Empathy, the children hold the power. They're not waiting for any adult to tell them your idea is a good idea. Nobody judges, and praise is the flip side of criticism. So there are no adult judgments, which frees up the children completely to find their voice and to be fearless learners. And all of the children speak. So baby May there, she showed that she was determined. She showed that she had perseverance. And all babies are like that. It's only when life tells them stop trying, or nobody is there and interested. So the way that lesson carried on was the Roots of Empathy instructor said to the children, who of us are like baby May, very persevering? And who of us give up easily? And how can we help one another if we give up easily? Because you can't get to your goal, or you can't learn what you're trying to learn if you give up. So how can we help one another? Instead of making fun of one another, which all too often happens in school. You know, we spoke, Dr. Davidson and I spoke yesterday at lunch about the term grit, which is taking hold in America. The idea that pull yourself up by your bootstraps and carry on. And if you don't succeed, it's your own fault. That it's up to you. And I can tell you that this idea of perseverance, if you've had an insecure attachment and you don't believe in yourself, you can't just change the record. My hope is that the classroom teachers who observe all this work become an attachment figure for the children, that they will be there for the children in a way that maybe nobody else has been aware of. So this attachment-informed teaching is a really good tool for the teacher. Now, we teach the children about temperament, that we're all very different because of our unique temperament traits, that some of us are born highly intense and some of us are born very mellow. So if you're born highly intense, your parents don't get much of a break because you're overreacting. As a baby, you cry quickly, louder and longer than the other babies. You're also equally joyful, and you could see how joyful those children were. Joy should live with learning. So baby May was a very serious demeanor. She didn't crack a smile that whole lesson. She was on task. She was completely oblivious to the 30 children who sat around watching her. She had such focus of purpose. I'm going to show you another little clip of baby May, and it's the very last class of the year. There were tears all around at the end. But baby May has turned into this very connected, joyful little girl. She's 11 months old. She feels she knows every child in the class because when we start Roots of Empathy, the children stand up and they sing the anthem. Hello, baby May, and how are you? How are you today? Every child touches baby May. Neuroscience. We teach the children the neuroscience of learning and feeling. Every child touches baby May. And baby May spends 3 seconds with every child in the whole class, and at the end, they all sing goodbye. I'm going to show you how they sing goodbye to baby May. and how she evolved from this very shy little baby girl at the beginning of the year to be this extroverted, kissing, hugging, bowing. Because she's of Japanese heritage, her mother explained that she's Canadian and the daddy is not Japanese, but she taught baby May what her mother taught her, that every time you offer a meal, you bow. So baby May is bowing in respect. You'll see her halfway through her kisses, bowing in respect to the children. So again, culture defines us. We have to respect our culture. And our individuality through our temperament traits allows every child to recognize the complement of traits that make them respond to the world as they do, and to realize none of these traits are moral flaws. They're how you see the world. So if you're one of these children who's very reticent and shy, there's nothing wrong with you. If you're one of these children who jumps into life at the deep end of the swimming pool, you're going to have all kinds of calamities. You're going to have broken bones and broken hearts because you'll give so quickly to life that you will be hard to raise and you'll be hard to watch in the school. So there's no one right way to be in the world, and we're all a mix of everything, and it transcends religion, race, color, creed, all of the boundaries that we put up to divide ourselves one from the other. Our feelings cross that and our temperament traits cross that. So here's baby May saying goodbye.
Goodbye, baby May, we'll see you soon. See you soon. See you soon. Goodbye, baby May, we'll see you soon. See you very soon. Goodbye, baby May, we'll see you soon. See you soon.
So baby May carried on, kissing and bowing to every child in that classroom. So the joy you feel when you connect with a baby, and the joy you feel, the quiet joy you feel when you're able to connect to yourself. And babies have this incredible capacity to allow us to find our humanity in them. And what the children come to understand is that we were all babies. And that some of us are great big babies. And some of us are 7-year-old babies. That there's no difference between the Roots of Empathy instructor and the mommy and the classroom teacher. That we all share the same feelings. And even babies have the array of feelings that adults have. And when adults share in a genuine way a time when they felt sad, some of the more vulnerable emotions, and children hear those feelings, they feel validated, and it binds them to the classroom teacher who might share with them a time in childhood when they felt disappointed, or when they were afraid, or when they were very sad. So I just want to share very quickly with you, and I'll have more time to share this afternoon on the research on this program, but basically the findings are, in 16 years of study on 3 continents, we're now in 11 countries and many languages, and all of the findings say aggression comes down, including bullying, that social and emotional understanding goes up, pro-social behavior goes up, and understanding of parenting and child or infant development goes up. The children, we are trying to help them to become the citizens we need for tomorrow. We're trying to help them to become responsible citizens and responsive parents. Not that we're saying there's any one way to be a parent, but to understand yourself and the nature of our humanity gives us the tools to be able to parent in an appropriate way. And I guess the children's wishes for the baby at the end of the year bring us to our knees in humility. They wish for the baby the things that they feel all babies need. So they'll say things like, I wish baby May would always have someone to be her best friend. I wish baby May would have a daddy. That's for the little ones who didn't have a daddy. I wish baby May would never get asthma, just like parents do. You don't want your children to have anything that wasn't good for you. And I wish baby May would never be bullied. And I wish baby May would always be smart at school and be a kind person. So all of these things are quite beautiful. The solidarity that grows in the program, because we sing, because we share, because the children trust one another. And the most vulnerable children, there was one little fellow who was a foster child and living in care. And he followed the mother out of the classroom at the end of the program. It's towards the end of the year. And he was walking down the hall, and the mother turned around and said to him, "Did you want to tell me something?" And he said, "No, I wanted to ask you something." And she said, "Well, what would you like to ask me?" And he said, "I'd like to ask you where love comes from." So I don't think that we often think about the well in children that's maybe not full of love, that could be full of love. And that children aren't something to be looked forward to, how we are teaching them in the moment for who they will be in the future. In the moment, they are worthy. They're not a means to an end. They are an end in every breath, and there is no unimportant breath or moment in a child's life. So I just wanted to share, in closing, one wonderful thing that happened today, and you've all been here, so you probably didn't know. We're all concerned about the climate of the environment and also the internal climate that you helped set for us today. Thank you. But in one fell swoop today, 170 countries agreed to reduce dramatically the chemical coolant in air conditioning. Now, do you know what that means for the universe? One vote today, 170 countries. Collectively, it will have more impact on reducing the heating in the world. Just an amazing thing, and we were just sitting having coffee when it happened. So I think to say it's a very hopeful world we live in. A quick story to close. There was one boy, and I was asked to tell this story. There was one young boy who was, he saw his mother being murdered. And he was in a series of foster homes. Everybody in his family was in prison or dead. And he got to be about 12 years old, and he had Roots of Empathy in his class. And this was a boy who tried to look very harsh so that if he looked menacing, nobody would think that he was weak or sad or soft. So one of the Roots of Empathy classes, the mother comes 9 times. This was 5th lesson. And the bell rang before the class was finished, or before the mother was finished, explaining that she always wanted a very cuddly little baby. But who did she get but Miss Independence, who wouldn't come in the sling, chest to chest, but only looking out in the world, and didn't like to be dressed up, and but she accepted the baby she got. And when the bell went, she said, "Would anyone like to try on this snuggly?" which is the holder for the baby. And our friend put up his hand. Now you have to appreciate his head was shaved. He had a ponytail at the top. This is in the late 90s. Started Roots of Empathy in 96. So this is late 90s, and he had a tattoo at the back of his head. So the mother helped him put this wraparound snuggly on. And the Roots of Empathy instructor said, "Would you like to put the baby in the snuggly?" And he said yes, and the mother looked slightly horrified. So having heard that the baby will only face out, he took that baby so tenderly, and he put the baby in the snuggly chest to chest, and that wise little baby molded to him. He went over to the corner, and it was noisy in the room. The children were packing their backpacks to go for lunch, and he started doing this. You know how moms have that seasick sort of rock? He'd noticed. So he's doing this with the baby. And after a few minutes, now the mom never broke glance, After a few minutes he came back and he very tenderly took the baby out, who was peaceful, and gave the baby to the mother. And as he gave the baby to the mother, he said to the Roots of Empathy instructor, do you think that if no one has ever loved you, that you could still be a good father? I think you can. Thank you.